Hey there and welcome back to another My Hero Academia video. And today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, episode 6, Division, which follows off from the epic Avengers Endgame assemble moment where the heroes ambushed All For One's forces, leading into the big final confrontation. And before we begin, I would like to say that whilst I have read the manga at some point, I remember pretty much nothing about it at all, so I'm pretty much an anime-only fan by this stage, so yeah, with all that being said, let's jump into it. So we start off the episode, like I thought, seeing the early parts of the plan for defeating the villains that they laid out at the dorms. But in the last episode, they cut away from all of that in order to give us a bit of shock factor when they all appear through Kurogiri's portals. So now we actually get to see what it is specifically, what they're planning to do. And whilst I do appreciate that, I'll be real with you, by this point, I don't care as much. I want to see some fighting, don't leave me hanging. I'm a simple man with simple needs. I need my hero and villain battles. Sue me. And so, we have the intro and then it's back into the explanation. It's made clear that there's no hope of the pro-heroes actually being able to track down All For One on their own, because Japan's pretty massive compared to the number of heroes they have left, and it's all anarchy out there. And on top of that, All For One has the search quirk, which lets him track the movements of pretty much everybody, so in that regard, he's not going to just be randomly surprised. They're not going to find that cave. And so the idea is that since they know there are likely other plants, as in planted spies, they can make it look like their side's flustered and panicking, and like they have no chance of figuring out where the villains are. And so this in turn is going to lower All For One's defenses as he starts to tighten the noose and make him less apprehensive about what's going on. So it'll allow them to use Ayama to lure out the villains for the ambush. And since they know that All For One can detect a lie in somebody's voice with his quirks, and since they have to have Ayama and his family speak with him on the phone, they decide to bring in Shinso in order to do so. He'll brainwash them, tell them what to say, so that there's no hint of deception, and All For One's quirk can't tell him that they're lying. In actuality, it's a really good plan. Like, rather clever, and I guess they must have tested this with the police guy's quirk too to make sure the concept itself works. So it does seem like it's rather foolproof. Also, I really loved how dramatic All Might is. He leaves Shinzo outside so he can do a big reveal. Like, it's completely unnecessary to do something like that. They're discussing life and death stakes, and a grand plan to take down the most dangerous villain of all time, and yet he can't resist adding a theatrical flair to things. I love it. Also, Shinzo's costume's fire. Love it. Looks awesome. Honestly, he's a character that I wish had more focus. He's one of the coolest side characters there is with so much potential. So I think it's a bit of a shame he is only really getting a spotlight now towards the end of the show's run. And turns out he's really upped the strength of his quirk off screen. Would have been nice to actually see that training. But okay. And so yeah, to complete their plan, they need Monoma to copy the quirk of Kurogiri and use those portals to their advantage. And this scene where Monoma finally gets to be the centerpiece of the plan, when all his life he'd been told he had a side character quirk, not a hero quirk, this was very nice and wholesome. And his teacher giving him a hug, oh, cute. And then Aizawa was also apologizing for having to put it all on him, as he's too damaged to do it now. Ah, what the hell, who's cutting onions over here? And so now we see the plan start to play out. Those scenes with Ayama and his parents on the phone, but now we have the added context of Shinzo there, and he's doing his mind control, so the lion quirk doesn't pick up the deception. Also, I love Shinzo's little thumbs up to Ayama, that was very cute. I also loved that, instantly, despite being so melancholy earlier in the prison with Aizawa and Vlad King, as soon as he's given the chance to be the big power player, the big important guy, it instantly goes to Monoma's head. Oh, I used to find him so annoying, but now he's such a fun character. And so the battle begins. We got a huge army of villains versus an army of heroes, and Shigaraki's quirk, it ain't working. So he tries to speak to Darby, who is no longer the cool and collected character we've always known. He's reverted to crazy, frothing at the mouth, rabid Toya, charging forward once he sees his dad, screaming, unleashing a huge attack which is in turn blocked by Shoto, who calls him an idiot as Darby gives his best Endeavor style, Shoto! But this time, with some more added crazy person energy. Man, this is going to be an epic fight. I can feel it. Although, I'm not really sure how it ends. I suspect Endeavor might die, but what about Toya? Surely there's no way back for him, right? Is he going to end his story locked in that asylum, being visited by his family like his mum was? And then during the course of the standoff, All Might activates their special protocol, which has cages spring out of the ground and trap the villains in different groups, which the heroes then split up to push through different portals to different battlegrounds, where I presume there are even more heroes waiting to fight. Divide and conquer sort of thing. Man, this is a really good plan. But there's only one issue. Deku is a scrub. Like, I get it, he was blindsided, but let's be real, Toga can't be that strong. Even just following their base power levels without using quirks, Deku would be massively stronger than her. Look at him, he's shredded. How is he overpowered, lifted off his feet and tugged through a portal? A portal that's a fair distance away. I mean, sure. Deku, what are you doing, son? And so now they come to phase 2, the battle phase. Hell yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. I needed this. So Fat Gum and Ayama seem to have been left behind to battle the stragglers, and I suspect these are the weaker, lower priority villains who didn't need to be caged up in the first place. And I suspect we'll also just see them beat them up in a bit of a montage. I doubt they're going to get much spotlight. All for One's been taken to the mountain villa where he's facing the likes of Endeavor and Hawks. Okay, not really sure what's going to happen there, because clearly Hawks is not what he was. His wings are still weak, and he has to use legitimate real swords instead of his feather swords. And for narrative closure, you still have to have Endeavor and Darby square off, don't you? So is there a chance that Endeavor actually takes the win here? Or maybe All for One's going to escape? That would be a pretty cool moment for him, honestly. He could say that he actually beat All for One. Something All Might, his longtime nemesis, who was always better than him and higher on the rankings, couldn't do. We'll have to wait and see. We also see that it was meant to be Deku versus Shigaraki, but now they're saving that for later. We also have Shoto versus Darby, which, well, that's already one of the biggest matchups straight off the block. And I do have to wonder, we're going to have any key deaths amongst the heroes? It feels like these early matchups are the time to have that happen. And then some really key ones later on, but we'll see. We also see that they had a really well thought out plan to take out Shigaraki. They've got a custom cage facility that he's chucked into alone versus Best Jeanist, Bakugo, Edgeshot, Mirko, Sun Eater, Nejire. They would have had Deku too. And that's a lot of big names, powerful characters, power players. But of course Toga throws a spanner in the works. Oops. And whilst the other heroes shit their pants, Mirko says tough luck, time to fight. And I don't know, this feels like famous last words kind of vibe for me. This is how you end up getting killed, bum-rushing the really powerful villain. And so the battle begins, the heroes start really strong. They have an electromagnetic barrier designed and maintained by the support crew and powered by the likes of Kaminari and others, which Shigaraki can be launched into and will paralyze him briefly. The ground can be lifted up and throw him around to stop him from using his decay quirk, which would just wipe everybody out quickly, and the ground can then be replaced because they have Creati making new raw materials. On top of that, they have Aizawa and Monoma on the outside using arrays on him to keep his quirk subdued, and Best Jeanist is around to tie him up. And not only that, but he can shit-talk him and monologue to us, the audience, so we can understand how everything works. How kind of him. And honestly, the plan is very sound, it's perfect. They just need a lot of firepower, which Deku would have probably been, but he ain't here, so oopsie. But hey, the heroes actually do very well. God, the action here is so cool, so many characters, they're working together. I really loved the double team of Nejire redirecting Bakugo's attack, that was really cool. Also, Monoma being completely and utterly unable to not shit-talk and mock Shigaraki for thinking himself as a final boss, that was very excellent. Shigaraki is a bit of an edgelord. He does deserve to get made fun of. And so they work together to fight him. It's a really cool fight. They seem to be keeping him on his toes, only for him to somehow be able to use some sort of quirk despite being erased. And I'm guessing the explanation is going to be something like it's not a quirk, but it's like a part of his body instead. A normal function, like how Aizawa probably wouldn't be able to erase Spinner from being a lizard. That's just my guess though. And yeah, poor Mirko. Woman has lost an arm and a leg already in previous battles, but she ain't done yet in terms of getting savaged by villains. Shigaraki unleashes his disgusting fingers attack and scores a direct hit, so she's got to be dead, right? That's the shock factor I needed. A hero we know who's cool and popular and a strong top 10 pro, getting one-shotted by the main villain, leaving the team with some rookies and 2 top pros, but still seeming extremely vulnerable. Whew! Either that or the writer is a complete sadist and he's going to have her lose all her limbs over the course of the battle, Black Knight style.
Alright, we'll call it a draw.
It's either that or death. And shit, this part was cool, with the music, that ominous boss music, Mirko's blood on Shiggy's arms, the fingers, and him just shit-talking Aizawa, glaring at him. Oh, that was cold. This battle's gonna slap, I feel it. But just watch them. Watch them have the next episode only briefly touch on this really cool battle, and instead follow Deku versus Toga, who realistically he should one-shot. How are they gonna work through that? How are they gonna convince me here? We'll see. And the preview suggests that Mirko's fine. She's not even bleeding despite her prosthetics being destroyed, so... okay, sure. This episode was a banger though. I loved it. More of this, please. More. So yeah, with all that being said, that's the end of the episode and the end of the video, and I would like to remind you these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? You like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.